The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Welcome to the bonus show. Yeah, I don't know that I need to talk more about the hair stuff, but it was a distraction during the show, right? I mean, it's weird.
I don't know if I can have a serious conversation with you right now.
I know. I don't know that I can seriously do the show, but it is, I promise this, and it is what it is, and we're doing it. Okay, this is an insane story. Rand Paul was attacked by a next-door neighbor named Rene Boucher, 59 years old, who was charged with fourth-degree assault, and Paul broke a few ribs as a result of this. Made his first public comments since the incident happened, tweeting that his wife, Kelly, and I appreciate the overwhelming support after Friday's unfortunate event. Thank you for your thoughts and prayers. 5 rib fractures, including 3 displaced fractures, meaning that the bones are partially or completely cracked. And it's not clear when Rand Paul is going to be back at work. And the individual, Rene Boucher, Rene is a man, by the way. It can be sometimes hard to know whether Rene is a man or woman. Also has contusions and bruises caused by the broken ribs. And these fractures are complex because when you have rib fractures, they can poke, puncture, or otherwise injure other internal organs, and it can cause all sorts of other trouble. Unclear if Rand Paul is having that issue now. It's still unknown what this dispute was over. Apparently, Rand Paul was in a dispute with his neighbor, and we don't know exactly why. It doesn't appear to necessarily have been political.
No, probably not. They're both doctors, too.
I read that.
It's interesting to imagine them getting into a fight with each other.
Can you imagine for a second if it was a dispute over some kind of ophthalmology procedure that they just weren't seeing eye to eye on? Like, in other words, Rand Paul is big on using the drops for full eye dilation to look at the back of the eye, but this neighbor maybe is fine with using the new electronic one that doesn't require full eye dilation or something.
That warrants a tackling, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an absurd story. I mean, I don't know what else to make of it, but the fact that they are both, and in fact, they're not both ophthalmologists. The neighbor is an anesthesiologist.
Of course.
So I guess it's less likely that there's some kind of medical controversy. But this is just absolutely and utterly insane. And I hope at some point we figure it out. Not that it matters, right? I mean, I'm against physical violence. This individual has been arrested. They will go through the system. However it is, the system determines that they should deal with them. But from a point of curiosity, I am very curious about what might have led to this.
Yeah, it probably doesn't have to do with politics because, of course, Rand Paul is a libertarian, and I guess the attacker is a little bit more liberally minded.
Is that right?
Yes. But
Great.
It's interesting how there have been quite a few of these events recently. I mean, there was the Steve Scalise shooting earlier this year. 2011, there was the Gabby Giffords shooting.
Yeah.
Before those events, it had been decades since a politician in like the House or Senate were wounded or killed.
Is that true?
Yes. There was a long break in that.
Huh. I'm reading, as I've mentioned, the Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail about, I've mentioned this before, 72 challenge of Richard Nixon by George McGovern. And in that, it's very interesting to see, because Hunter S. Thompson describes sort of how Secret Service was around what was going on. And there were multiple senators in the Democratic primary, and they talk about when Secret Service gets in. But even when Secret Service was involved in protecting people in 72, and that's post the JFK assassination already, it was nothing like it is today. I mean, significantly more laid back. And it's stunning to think back and now realize what it is that Secret Service has to do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, we used to think of the Secret Service as being so much more lax before the Kennedy assassination. And then after that, they kind of hunkered down and got much more strict. But you're saying it wasn't so? I mean, you'd be able to approach these people just fine?
It was more strict after the Kennedy assassination, but still in 72 or 71 during the lead up to that election, it was nothing compared to what it is now.
And then the Robert Kennedy assassination was in 68, just a few years before that.
Yep, and that's actually referenced in the book. A very interesting book, by the way. I do recommend it. Okay, so Rand Paul, he's doing okay, although some broken ribs. You know that whole thing about how when you're pregnant, you don't have to worry about birth control because you're already pregnant. You're not going to get pregnant again. Apparently, it can happen. A California woman became pregnant while she was already pregnant. What does that mean? Well, it's a very, very rare case which resulted in her carrying twins with 2 different sets of parents. The woman's name is Jessica Allen. She's 31 years old. She agreed to be a gestational surrogate for a Chinese couple that she met through an agency that does this in Southern California, according to the New York Post. And doctors used in vitro fertilization some months ago, or rather in April of 2016, to produce an embryo for the Chinese couple, and they implanted that embryo in the uterus of Ms. Allen. Allen became pregnant with the other couple's baby, But at 6 weeks of pregnancy, she was told she was carrying twins. She was very surprised to learn that she was carrying twins. She believed that the Chinese couple's embryo had split into two, meaning
Yeah.
these are identical twins with the same parents from the same embryo. But a month after she gave birth to the two babies, she learned that the twins not only were not identical, they looked very different. And a DNA test confirmed that one baby was Alan's biological child and the other baby was the Chinese couple's child. It turned out that this is something called superfetation. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, where she had gotten pregnant naturally after the IVF procedure, and one of these kids was hers. And it means superfetation means you become pregnant when you're already pregnant. Incredibly rare.
Very interesting. I guess there are only a few cases of this in the medical literature.
Yeah.
Because I'd imagine once you're pregnant, you stop ovulating. But I wonder if the fact that she was a surrogate parent didn't, trigger her body to stop that process.
I don't
Maybe
know.
that has something to do with it.
Maybe so. It's very interesting. And that you're completely right that that's normally what happens. Now, I wonder if this is the case, what do you feel if you've agreed to be a surrogate and you believe that you're carrying twins that are the biological parents, and you're expecting that as soon as these two children are born, they go to the parents that have hired you as a surrogate, and then you find out, one of them is not actually the child of the parents that have hired you. One of them is your kids. I don't know if the legal rights change in any way, but do your feelings change about? I don't know why I'm asking Pat. Like he might one day be pregnant with multiple parental twins. But I think that would significantly change my outlook.
I mean, just having the child without expecting to have one, that's a rare case too.
That alone, yeah.
And you oftentimes you have to make a decision once you get pregnant if you don't intend to as to what to do with the child. But if you carry that child to term, those decisions are over with.
Yeah, very, very difficult and complex situation.
And apparently the two twins were only like 6 weeks apart.
Yeah.
I wonder if, the surrogate twin was brought to term, 9-month pregnancy.
Yep.
But the twin of her own was maybe only a few months old,
Yeah.
too young to survive outside of the womb. What would happen in that case?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I mean, just every element of this is very, very unusual. And I think that, is it offensive for me to comment on what I think I would do if I were a woman? Like, is that
No, I don't think
like
so.
mansplaining or something like that?
Maybe some would consider it that.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I don't know what I would do. I'm not even suggesting explaining, but I'm just wondering, were I to, would people in the audience be offended? Okay. We know that the state prisoners of the California prison system were crucial in fighting the wildfires that swept through Southern California. 4,000 low-level prisoners made up 30% of the forest firefighters that were battling the fires in Southern California. Some of them risked their lives. Some of them actually died while fighting fires. But we have a problem where they are going to have a really hard time actually becoming firefighters. Some of them, after they finished out their prison sentences, said, I had a really rewarding experience as a firefighter, effective firefighter, volunteer firefighter. While I was serving my sentence, I'm going to pursue a career in firefighting. But California and many other states make it almost impossible for former firefighters to get former prisoners to get a firefighter's license because they require them to be certified as EMTs, which is almost always denied to convicted felons. And that's why almost none of these 4,000 individuals are going to be able to, and not all of them want to, but some of them do, actually get jobs as firefighters. And it's yet another way in which we claim that our incarceration system is one of rehabilitation, but it's clearly not set up that way. We often actually harden the criminality of individuals when they are in the prison system. We make it really difficult for them to come out and actually get jobs. And this is part of the same circle we've been talking about for years.
Yeah, I wonder if there are any jobs that should disqualify potential employees based on their, ex-felon status. Because, we have this idea that you serve your time and once that's up, you're out. But we also see, sex offenders having to register for life. And I guess many states, you can't even become like a landscaper or a podiatrist if you're an ex-felon. Well, and maybe there are some occupations where we should consider this, but I don't think firefighting would be one.
Podiatrist and landscaper, I think, are different. Although if you take a sort of what would not an objective view, a 100% view on this,
Like a bird's eye view?
A bird's eye view, and you say nobody should be blocked from having a particular job based on a served term for a crime, then it wouldn't matter if it's podiatrist or landscaper. If you take an absolute view on it, is the word I was looking for. I don't know the answer to that, because you're right. The idea is you go to prison because you've been sentenced after being found guilty of a crime. The prison sentence is the make good. You are, as the phrase goes, repaying your debt to society. If you've repaid the debt, why should there still be more punishment after you're out? So at the bird's eye view, that doesn't make sense. At the same time, I think intuitively, most of us do have a problem with the idea of a former sex offender, even if they get out, who molested kids, becoming a teacher.
Right, or like even someone who committed a violent crime and served 20 years becoming a police officer. I mean, it doesn't seem to make sense.
It doesn't, yeah, but where do you draw the line? I don't know. I don't know where the answer is, and I know that it's more interesting to take some kind of absolute view on this or draw a line, but these are complex issues, and I'm comfortable saying I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah, I mean, does it matter, too, if it's a violent crime versus like a drug crime?
It does.
I think it does to some extent
I think if
it's
a violent crime, if it's a crime against children, that might be, particularly when it comes to pedophilia, there's a lot of science that suggests you don't really get cured, for lack of a better term, of that. You might be able to resist your urges, but that you will always be attracted to kids or I don't even know if attracted is the right word, but I think that there are categories of crimes, but you still, how do you justify that if prison is the repayment of debt to society, continuing the punishment indefinitely? I don't know.
It actually reminds me of a voicemail from Eggman a couple months ago. Yes, because he called in and said that it's actually somewhat easy, in his case anyway, for him being an ex-felon to vote again. Yeah. But it was super hard for him to find a job.
Yeah, he said it was easier in New York State
anytime that he revealed that he was an ex-felon, they would just cross him off the list.
Eggman left some doozies on the voicemail line over the weekend, completely unusable. I mean, just not even a chance that they are usable for the program. And it's even if we'd have to bleep so much that it would lose its value. Profanity. Yeah, come on, Eggman, please. Okay, that is it for today. We will talk to you tomorrow on the program.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.